Hey everyone, it is Rachel and I'm here for another episode of Work the Line, my series with Kelly Oblak. Today we are working with Shimelle Starshine. Kelly suggested this and I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I have Starshine. I do have Starshine. I have 3 whole pages of it. This is it. I bought 3 pages. I never used them. But I don't have anything else. I have no embellishments. I probably have there's probably some thickers that came out with it, like Fitzgerald, one of the colors. I'm going to go back and check before I actually start doing this. But I'm like, you know what? I will make it work. I will bring in stuff that from other Shimelle lines that will coordinate, and I will make it work. I decided I also wanted to play with a new toy I got for my birthday. My stepfather bought me the HP Sprocket, and some people have mentioned about the color quality, and I agree. It's not like supremely awesome. I found if you, with just a little bit of tweaking, you can make it better. I originally printed this photo from my phone using the Pick Tap Go app, and this is what my normal recipe is for editing my photos. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word editing. And I found it brings too much yellow in. So I decided, you know, when I do photos like these, they're not going to be my fabulous, well, not my photos are really fabulous, but they're not going to be my, you know, important stories. They're going to be my fun stories or my road trip stories or something like that. So, unfortunately, I can't show you how the sprocket works because I use my phone to record, and that's what I use to print it. It's right here. Here it is. It's nice and cute. It works with Bluetooth with your phone, so you can take it with you. This Skin It cover was free. It came as part of the package my stepfather bought me, and so I just picked this one. It says travel, explore, and live. My entire plan is to use it for a big trip I'm taking next year, a big road trip. So I'm hoping to kind of journal and use this along the way to help. I'm going to then make that into a scrapbook, but my hope is to use that as kind of a jog your memory type thing. Okay, getting back to this project. So I printed off these 4 photos. Now I have a sketch that I'm going to loosely follow. Obviously, when you take a gander at the sketch, you'll realize why I'm saying loosely. So here, I'm going to stand up so my volume might change. Here we go. So here it is. It's from Scrapbook Generation. They had an online magazine for about 1.5 years, and they gave away a free sketch, both a single page, and then here's the double page. And honestly, I was just too lazy to download it to my computer to put it out, so I'm showing it to you on my Kindle. And so this is the sketch I'm going to be following. Obviously, I don't have 1 4x6 photo and 2 square photos. I have the 4 2x3 photos. My idea is to staggerly stack them over here and then not worry about these being photos at all. Instead, make them some sort of embellishments. So this is the sketch I'm going to be working with. I am working through a series of sketches with some online friends of mine, and this is the first one, so I'm going to go ahead and get it started. I am going to be using the Starshine papers along with, I have a couple of embellishments from the True Stories line, and then the Alpha from Go Now Go, and I'm also going to work with my L Studio Title Builder stamp set because I paid for the darn thing. I'm going to use it. All right, folks. Oh, one other thing, just so you know, I am not a coffee drinker. I know all of you who are watching this gasped in shock. I am what I refer to as naturally caffeinated, so if you add the caffeine of coffee to me, I tend to become irritating. I drink tea. I drink a lot of tea. And that is actually kind of what this layout is about. Not so much the tea as the mugs I put the tea in. So once I get started, I will go ahead and share with you what this actually is about. So I'm going to go ahead, put you on fast forward, and I'm actually not going to get started right now, but I'll come on back in a few minutes and get started then. All right. Alright folks, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Now, I'm going to tell you, this layout took a little bit longer than I expected. I don't know why, but this video is on the longish side for me, so you're just going to have to go ahead and deal with it. I was pointing out that I am adding one piece of white cardstock. I do plan on doing a little bit of stamping for my title, so I wanted to have some smooth cardstock in order to do that. First thing I'm going to go ahead and do is gut this paper. This is from the Shimelle Starshine collection, and I don't know what the paper is because I do end up using the branding strip on my layout. I'm going to gut this because I'm going to be using a lot of little banners, so I know I'm going to want to use this multicolored star paper and then the diagonal stripe on the other side to make some of those banners with, so I wanted to make sure to do that. Now I'm going to apologize, I am getting over a cold, so if the narration starts and stops a lot, it's simply because I'm clearing my throat, but I don't want to do that on camera. Now I'm going to go ahead and trim up my white cardstock 1 inch on 2 sides, or 1.5 inches, something like that. It must be 2 inches because I have a pretty wide border as going along with the sketch. So what I've done is trim that so it's about 2/3 excuse me, of the center part of the layout, and then I'm going to use a couple of branding strips to mimic that central point in the sketch. And then I'm going to use this teal and white tiny polka dot part as the top quarter of that center piece of the layout. Once I get that all set, I've got the main basis of my layout all set. So that part went really quickly. It's all the little banners that took a long time to do. Now obviously the sketch called for 1 4x6 photo, whereas I'm using 4 2x3 photos. So obviously my photo is going to be much longer than the original sketch photo. So I'm just trying to make a decision here as to whether I want to stack them all or if I'd want to do 1, then 2, then 1 again. I decided pretty quickly I am going to stack it. It's going to end up pretty much like you see it now, just a little bit of difference as I start adding some embellishments. Now I've decided that I'm going to trim off 3 of these cameras that came as part of, I believe, the True Stories line. And I'm just going to, I skip ahead because I fussy cut close to my body, so you don't see anything, so I just skipped ahead of fussy cutting them. And then I'm going to trim out several pieces of both the Starshine and the True Stories line papers that I'm then going to cut into banners. Now, once I use my Caterpillar crop to cut about 3 inches off the 12x12 papers, I'm going to switch over to my smaller swing line guillotine chopper, just because since I'm cutting little pieces of paper, it's just easier to do it that way. I am going to cut away from this because it's just me cutting little pieces of paper over and over and over. I'm going to switch over to where I'm showing you cutting some diagonal stripe paper, and because I'm one of those crazy people, and one of my quirks is that my diagonal stripes have to be going in the same direction. It bothers my eye if they're not. I do come back to you seeing me make sure I cut that so they're in the same direction as my papers. I'm going to be using my Stampin' Up! Triple banner punch to cut fishtail banners in all of these papers. Now, if I'm cutting 1 or 2, I'll just eyeball it with my scissors, but I was cutting like 20. So I definitely wanted to use my fishtail banner punch. That way they're all almost the same-ish. You know, obviously some of them are a little off-kilter, but for the most part they're the same. I then go ahead and take this Heidi Swapp navy ink and ink up all of that. I'm also going to once again jump ahead because inking up 20 pieces of paper takes a bit of time. So next up, I'm going to cut some fishtail banners in my 2 branding strips that I've pulled to be that dividing line on my layout. Now, I've saved that particular one with the teacups on it for so long, like I don't have anything left. I don't even know if that's from True Stories or if that's from the previous line, but I was like, one day I will make a layout about teacups and I will use this branding strip. I made a vow to myself, and I actually came through on that though. I was very proud that I managed to keep that branding strip uncrumpled for so long. I'm going to go ahead and ink up these branding strips. I'm also going to go ahead and ink up my both my white cardstock and that teal and white polka dotted paper. So I've been on an inking kick lately, but I figured, especially since I am using Shimelle paper, I should definitely ink up my paper this time. Once I get that down, I'm going to, because it is that multicolor diagonal stripe, my eyes are having a hard time finding out where the center of that paper is. So I just grabbed my centering ruler to make sure that my paper is centered on the page. And then I'm going to go ahead and get that glued down. I'm then going to flip my paper over and do the same for the polka dotted piece of paper. And then I am going to go ahead and get my banner strips down. Branding banner strips. I'm losing it. I'm going to go ahead and get my branding strips down. Now there is going to be a little gap. That's okay. I've got those double branding strips, so there's going to be plenty to cover that gap. And I'm very happy with the way this turned out. I really like it. I thought it turned out super cute. So now I'm going to start, well, I'm going to start by gluing together my two branding strips just so I can see exactly how much room I have. When I'm gluing something together that is smaller than the width of a full branding strip, I always just go ahead and use my liquid glue just for ease of use more than anything. Of course, I can't manage to glue it down straight the first time, so I have to go back and redo it. Now I'm going to start by building up this banner cluster in the upper right-hand corner that was in the original sketch. And I'm just trimming some so they're different heights and making sure the colors and the patterns. So I try to mix bigger patterns and smaller patterns next to each other and multicolor with single color or maybe like a two-tonal color. Basically, I just make it to a point where it looks good to my eye. And this is very subjective. To someone else, they're going, stop, stop, 3 banners would have been enough. But I've always been a more is more kind of girl rather than a less is more. So for me, this works very well. For other people, I know this is like completely over the top. And that's just a matter of, you know, what your personal taste is. So if you're someone who doesn't like this much pattern, you could do this with different color of cardstocks. You could do this with just 1 or 2 patterns, or you could just do 3 banners and just keep it super simple. So a lot of this stuff is very customizable. So once I have them where I want them, now I have to be able to pick them up. So what I decided to do is take some washi tape and tape across the front, and then I'm going to peel them up, and I was very lucky because all of them stuck to one side. I was very pleased with that. I was like, wow, I didn't think that would actually happen, but I'm going to go ahead and tape up the back side. And the reason I'm going to do this is I'm going to trim off the bottom, and I didn't want to accidentally lose any. Once I trim that off, I am just going to place it right there and cover it with the banner and be super excited that that actually worked. Yay me! Woo! I'm going to clean up a bit because everything was just a bit messy. And I realized, oh, I didn't ink this one, so grab that. I found a couple when I picked up my trimmer that I missed in my original inking marathon, and I also went ahead and inked up my 3 fussy cut cameras because if everything else is inked, those should be inked as well. It'll also help them stand out a little bit from my banners, which I'm going to use 2 of these in place of those 2x2 photos in the upper right hand corner. I found my Scotch foam tape. I was super happy about that. It had rolled in the back of a computer armoire I use to store all of my non-desk scrappy stuff. And once I get the banners and then the branding strips glued down, I'm going to think it just needs a little something else. And so I was thinking about it, and I decided to pull out my Tim Holtz Tiny Attacher, which I never remember to pull out, but I thought it would work really well here, so I stapled the ends of both ends of the branding strips, and then also I put a couple staples in a couple of the areas of the banners. So I consider using another tag, but no, way too much. See, that's too much pattern for me. But I decide instead what I will do is I will fussy cut out one of these micro striped stars. And this is why I don't normally fussy cut on camera. This is how long it takes me to, in 4 times the speed, fussy cut a star, which is made up of straight lines. Yeah, folks, this is what I save you from on a weekly or bi-weekly, depending on how much I've gotten done, basis. I am going to use this larger one with the ampersand. And these tags were like, the gimmick with them is they had these vellum pieces that you could pop in different phrases. I have about 17 of the phrases and 1 tag left because I didn't use them very often. I did, however, use them here, and I chose the phrases hello and wonderful. And so those are what I'm going to use for this particular layout. And then now I am getting ready to actually place my photos. Now with the sprocket, the photos are 2x3 and they are sticker backed. So that's really cool, especially if you want to use them, say, in a traveler's notebook or an art journal or like some sort of smaller vessel for memory keeping. Very cool, very neat way to do it. Those little vellum things were a pain in the butt to try to get in, I will tell you. That took, I mean, understand this is at 4 times the speed, so that took quite a bit of time there. Now I've decided to add a cluster of banners in that lower left-hand corner by that 3rd photo, and that is where they're going to end up, but you'll notice that diagonal stripe was not the same, so I was annoyed with myself, plus I wanted to bring more blue, so I decided instead I'm going to trim out another banner from that star paper, and then I'm going to move a couple of those banners over by that ampersand tag, and that way I'm creating a 3rd little banner cluster area, which wasn't actually in the original sketch, but it worked for me. So that's why a lot of times people say using sketches as a jumping off point. That's absolutely true, even for me, and I tend to follow sketches more closely than other people, but for me, there's always a way to change it up. Alright, I am getting my photos not glued because they're stickers. I'm going to get my photos stuck down. And as I mentioned before, with this multicolor diagonal stripe, it's playing wonky with my eyes, so I'm just going to be using my T-square ruler, and I start to do it. I'm like, no, wait, you want to do it from the other side because you want to make sure those staples are seen. So I'm just going to back that up a bit, but once I get this first one down, I can then use the bottom of that to get my others down. So I put that away and just start removing the sticker paper for my other photos. Now in the next part, you're going to be seeing my head a couple of times between placing the photos and then doing the stamping, and you might notice I'm wearing a hood. I made this layout back in the beginning of September. It is now the end-ish of September, and in the beginning of September, it was so cold, I was wearing a hood in my house. This weekend that I'm voiceovering this, which is the weekend before this goes up, so it's like the 23rd right now, it is so hot, it's going to be over 90 degrees here in Connecticut. So our weather is so ridiculously crazy, it's not even funny. Alright, along with that branding strip, I also saved those 2 wood button with epoxy stickers that had the 2 coffee/teacups in them. Once again, I am just super amazed that I managed to keep these. So I will be using those on this layout. Woohoo! I also found that sticker from the True Stories, and it said, "These things happen." So, as I mentioned, this layout is kind of a tongue-in-cheek, funny layout, talking about my obsession with tea mugs. So, you'll see there are 4 mugs here. Those are not the only 4 mugs I have. These are my 4 that are in regular rotation. My housemate, my nephew's mom, has just as many, and then we have our secondary mugs, and then our third area of mugs in the home. And my nephew, who actually is the person who puts away all of the dishes, it's one of his chores, banned us. We were at a store, and we're looking, we're like, oh my gosh, those mugs are so cute. And he's like, no, you are banned. You are banned from buying more mugs because there is no more room for them. He was so passionate about it. It was hilarious. But we're like, no, you're right. We don't have the room for them. You know, so if we buy a new mug, we do have to move a mug out. So getting away from the story and moving on to the actual layout, I pulled out the word this and the words I am stamps from my LA Studio title builder set. And then these turquoise Fitzgerald, which came out with one of the Shimelle lines, excuse me, is going to be the rest of what I'm going to use the rest of my title. Now, I put the words is why on some packaging. I don't normally do this, but because I'm trying to line up the stamps, I decided I would go ahead and do this for this particular reason. So I'm trying to find out where the best place for the words I am is, and I decide just to the right of the angled portion of that ampersand tag, where it nestles in right there, would be absolutely perfect. So I'm going to go ahead, get that ampersand block and those banners down, and I'm using the words is why on that packaging just so I know exactly how much room I need. So I'm going to once again use my navy Heidi Swap ink to stamp down the word I am. And then I am going to consider using, I have the alphas from the Go Now Go line, but the letters I have weren't going to work with the colors in this particular one because Go Now Go had a lot more of that rusty red in it than these two lines do. It just wasn't going to work even with those teacups because I don't have a ton of letters left, so it would have been mostly red, and it didn't work in my head. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the turquoise Fitzgerald ones to finish off the layout. And I'm super happy that I finally managed to finish off that package of wood button with epoxy stickers in them. I was just like, oh my goodness, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's always so exciting when you use up an entire package of something. It's like, yes, I did it. All right, we have actually almost reached the end of this marathon layout. Woo! All right, I finished off my title, and now I'm going to do my journaling. And I already told you the story of what this is. As mentioned, it's not a serious thing, but it's funny, and it's part of our life. And so I just wanted to document it. And it's funny because I did this layout, and I had it out as I was photographing it, and my nephew comes over. He's like, yes, you are banned. He's like, you are completely banned from buying any more of those stupid mugs. Now, obviously, he's 16, and if I wanted to buy a mug, I could buy a mug. But when you live with people, you make, choices about what makes them happy, and it does not make him happy for me to buy more mugs, and I have several to choose from, as you can see. So, we're good. I am going to do a couple more things. I'm going to add some mist in Heidi Swap Navy Color Shine, and then I'm going to switch over to Shimmer's products in Glorious Day, and then finally in Mango Tango, and both of those are Vibes, which are my favorite kind of mists. I love them, and I want them in every single color, but I'm trying to, not be crazy. And the final thing I'm going to do is, I knew in my enamel dot holder, I have the Shimelle enamel dots that came out with the True Stories line. So I'm actually not going to do my groupings of 3 like I normally do. Instead, I am just going to scatter them over the layout. And then I am actually complete and finished. Woohoo! All right, folks, thank you guys so much for joining me here. Please make sure to go on over to Kelly's channel and check out her take using Shimelle Starshine. That is it for me. If you could flick me a thumbs up, that would be super awesome. Have a great day, everyone. Bye!